The accusation at altitude. April 14, 1943. 26,000 feet over the North Sea, eastbound toward occupied Europe. The bomber shudders as it claws through thin air, aluminum skin rattling under the steady vibration of 4 Wright Cyclone engines. Frost creeps along the inside of the plexiglass like white veins. Oxygen masks hiss softly. Somewhere behind the cockpit, a man kneels alone in a cramped bubble of glass and steel, gloved hands wrapped around the grips of twin .50 caliber machine guns. Staff Sergeant William "Billy" Hargreaves, ball turret gunner, scans the empty sky. The B-17 Flying Fortress Iron Duchess holds formation with 11 other bombers, their silhouettes stacked like dark crosses against the pale morning sun. Below them, the sea is flat and gray, indifferent. Above them, the sky looks clean, harmless. That illusion never lasts long. Billy shifts his weight, boots braced against the turret's metal frame. The cold bites through his flight suit despite the electric lining. His intercom crackles with routine chatter from the waist gunners, the navigator calling out headings, the pilot calm and clipped. Everything sounds normal. Too normal. Billy leans forward, pressing his face closer to the sight. He has learned to trust the feeling that creeps up his spine before the enemy appears. The manuals say to wait. The instructors drilled it into him back in gunnery school in Texas. Do not fire until the enemy is within effective range. Conserve ammunition. Fire only when ordered or when a clear attack is underway. Billy has read the manuals. He just does not believe them. At 0907 hours, he sees it. A flicker. A glint of sunlight where there should be nothing. Tally, low 6, he mutters, thumb tightening. The shapes sharpen as they climb. Dark noses. Yellow engine cowlings. Messerschmitt Bf 109s, a full swarm, coming up fast from below and behind the formation. They are still distant, still organizing, sliding into position like wolves circling before the rush. Billy does not wait. The turret erupts in noise and vibration as both guns open up. Brass casings tumble away into the slipstream, flashing gold before vanishing. Tracer rounds arc out into empty space, red streaks cutting across the pale blue sky far short of the enemy fighters. Jesus Christ, Billy, what are you doing? The tail gunner shouts over the intercom. Cease fire, ball turret, comes the sharper voice of the aircraft commander, First Lieutenant Robert Collins. You're out of range. Billy keeps firing in short, deliberate bursts. Not spraying wildly. Not panicking. He walks the tracers slowly upward, not at the fighters themselves, but into the air they are climbing through. He is not trying to hit them. He is trying to speak to them. The Messerschmitt pilots see it instantly. Tracer fire means detection. Early detection. It means surprise is gone. Ball turret, I said cease fire, Collins snaps. You're wasting ammunition. Billy exhales slowly into his mask. He stops firing, but he does not relax his grip. The fighters hesitate. From their perspective, the bomber formation is no longer blind. The curtain has been pulled back too soon. Their carefully timed climb, meant to bring them into firing position beneath the bombers where the fortress is weakest, has been announced. The sky is no longer quiet. The German formation wobbles, spacing disrupted. One fighter breaks slightly left. Another pulls up too steeply, overshooting his place. Billy fires again. This time the bursts are even shorter. Controlled. Almost conversational. Tracers stitch a loose barrier in the air below the formation, not aimed to kill, but to warn. To disrupt. To force a decision before the Germans are ready to make one. Damn it, Hargreaves, Collins growls. That's an order. But something has changed in the cockpit. The navigator has gone silent. The co-pilot leans forward, eyes fixed on the rear-view mirror. The waist gunners stop joking. They are watching the fighters struggle to line up, their clean geometry unraveling. The Messerschmitts were supposed to hit together. A single coordinated strike. Cannons and machine guns firing in unison, tearing into the belly of the formation before the bombers could react. Instead, they are reacting now. One fighter peels away early, unwilling to fly through a sky already alive with tracers. Another pilot fires prematurely, his rounds falling short, his position exposed. The cohesion is breaking. Billy stops firing again, heart pounding, fingers numb. He waits. He counts silently. 1, 2, 3. The sky holds its breath. Then the fighters break. Not all at once. Not cleanly. One dives away. Another rolls hard and drops beneath the bombers. The rest scatter, abandoning the climb and reforming at a safer distance. The attack has been aborted before it truly begins. Inside the Iron Duchess, no one speaks for several seconds. The intercom crackles. Lieutenant Collins exhales slowly. "Ball turret," he says at last, his voice different now. Quieter. "Report ammunition." Billy swallows. "Down about 400 rounds, sir," he answers. There is another pause. Somewhere in the formation, flak bursts bloom in the distance, black and harmless for now. Collins nods to himself, unseen. "Keep watching the sky," he says. "All of it." Billy settles back into his turret, eyes scanning the empty blue once more. His hands are still shaking. He does not know yet that this moment will follow him long after the mission ends. He only knows that for a few seconds, instinct beat doctrine, and the enemy blinked first. Above the North Sea, the sky is quiet again. For now. Doctrine versus instinct. The quiet does not last. 10 minutes later, the cold feels sharper. The vibration of the engine settles into a steady, almost hypnotic rhythm, but no one aboard the Iron Duchess mistakes it for safety. Billy keeps his eyes moving, slow and methodical, sweeping left to right, then down, then back up again. The empty sky is deceptive. It always is. The intercom crackles again, this time not with alarm, but irritation. "Ball turret," Lieutenant Collins says. "When we land, you and I are going to have a conversation." Billy understands the tone. It is not anger. It is procedure. Ammunition counts matter. Doctrine matters. A gunner who fires early risks more than wasted rounds. He risks discipline. Back at gunnery school, instructors hammered the lesson home with chalkboards and statistics. Enemy fighters rely on surprise, yes, but bombers rely on endurance. Every .50 caliber round fired early is one less round when the enemy is close enough to kill. Fire discipline is survival. Billy knows all of that. He just also knows what he saw. The waist gunners murmur quietly among themselves. One of them, Sergeant Frank Delgado, leans toward his mic. "Hey, Billy," he says, half joking, half serious. "You trying to scare them off with noise, or you see something we didn't?" Billy does not answer right away. His eyes lock onto a new shape far off to the right. A single dot. Then another. "They're not done," he finally says. At 0931 hours, the German fighters return. This time, they do not climb from below. They come in high and fast from the sun, a classic approach designed to blind gunners and compress reaction time. The fortress formation holds, tight boxes overlapping fields of fire, silver wings glinting. The lead Messerschmitt tips its nose down. The tail gunner opens fire first, tracers slashing upward. The waist guns follow. The sky erupts in intersecting lines of red and white. Billy tracks the diving fighter, waiting, counting the seconds until it crosses into his cone. "Hold," he whispers to himself. Then, just before the fighter commits, Billy fires again. Not a full burst. Just a brief, sharp snap of gunfire. Tracers streak upward, slicing through the dive path. The German pilot jerks hard on the stick, pulling up early. His wingman, expecting him to continue, nearly collides. Their attack angles unravel in seconds. "Son of a bitch," Delgado mutters. It worked again. This time, Collins does not tell Billy to stop. The fighters break off once more, frustrated, their timing shattered. They circle out of range, regrouping, reassessing. Fuel is burning. Time is slipping. Every failed pass brings them closer to the escort fighters rumored to be somewhere behind the formation. In the cockpit, Collins exchanges a glance with his co-pilot. "He's firing like he's hurting them," the co-pilot says. Collins nods slowly. "He's not shooting at airplanes," he replies. "He's shooting at decisions. The manuals never mention that." Billy feels it too. The fighters are reacting to him now. Watching the ball turret. Measuring the intervals between bursts. He varies his timing deliberately. Sometimes early. Sometimes not at all. He is creating uncertainty, and uncertainty is poison in aerial combat. At 0944 hours, flak begins to rise in earnest. Black puffs blossom around the formation, rocking the bombers with concussive thuds. Shrapnel rattles against the fuselage like handfuls of gravel. The fighters stay back, unwilling to thread flak and machine gun fire at the same time. Billy flinches as a nearby burst rocks the turret. His oxygen hose jerks taut. For a moment, he imagines the thin glass shattering, cold air ripping the breath from his lungs. He forces the thought away and keeps scanning. Another swarm appears. Different markings. Fresh pilots. This time, they try something new. A feint from below, then a sudden climb straight into the formation, aggressive and desperate. Billy fires immediately, longer this time, laying a ladder of tracers directly into their ascent. One fighter plunges through anyway. The waist guns catch him, rounds tearing into his fuselage. Smoke trails from his engine as he rolls and falls away, disappearing into cloud. The rest scatter. Inside the Iron Duchess, the realization spreads quietly, without celebration. The enemy is no longer attacking as a single mind. They are reacting individually. Cautiously. Losing confidence. At 1002 hours, Collins keys the intercom. "Ball turret," he says. "You keep doing what you're doing." Billy does not smile. He cannot. His jaw is clenched, muscles tight, eyes burning from the cold and strain. His ammunition count is dropping faster than doctrine allows, but the sky around the formation is staying clear. For now. Far ahead, the coastline of occupied Europe comes into view, a dark line beneath broken cloud. The most dangerous part of the mission is still ahead. The fighters know it. Billy knows it. He tightens his grip on the guns and waits for the next move. The breaking point over enemy territory. By 1018 hours, the bombers are deep over occupied territory. The coastline slips behind them, replaced by a patchwork of fields and rivers far below, muted by altitude and haze. Flak intensifies almost immediately. It rises in thick, accurate clusters now, not the distant ranging shots from the coast, but calculated bursts set to the fortress cruising altitude. Each explosion rocks the aircraft, sending shudders through the turret and into Billy's spine. The Iron Duchess holds formation, but the air feels crowded. Dangerous. Alive. Billy forces himself to slow his breathing. Oxygen hisses in rhythm with his pulse. His fingers ache from the cold and constant tension. He rolls his shoulders as much as the turret allows and keeps scanning. Then the sky fills all at once. Multiple bandits, the tail gunner yells. High 6, coming in fast. This is not a probing attack. This is commitment. At least 8 fighters plunge out of the sun, wings rocking slightly as they adjust aim. They are not circling this time. They are not hesitating. The German pilots have decided to accept losses in exchange for damage. Bomber command doctrine counts on this moment. This is where formations bleed. Billy feels the familiar surge of instinct, sharper now, edged with fear. He fires immediately. Not at one fighter. At all of them. The turret roars as he sweeps both guns in a controlled arc, tracers overlapping, forming a loose net across the sky behind the formation. He is not precise. He is not calm. He is deliberate. The waist gunners join in, their guns hammering, spent casings piling at their feet. The tail gunner fires continuously, his tracers converging with Billy's into a blazing web of fire. The lead Messerschmitt flies straight through it. Rounds strike his aircraft, sparks flashing along the wing route. Smoke pours from the engine cowling, but the pilot keeps coming, cannons firing. Bright flashes streak past the Iron Duchess, ripping through empty air inches from the fuselage. Billy tracks him, jaw locked, firing in short bursts, adjusting constantly. The fighter flashes past beneath the bomber, so close Billy sees the pilot's helmeted head turn upward. Then the fighter is gone, diving away trailing smoke. Another takes his place. The sky behind the formation becomes chaos. Tracers crisscross. Flak bursts erupt among the fighters themselves now, German gunners unable to hold fire with aircraft so close. One Messerschmitt clips through a flak cloud and vanishes in a violent orange flash. But the attack keeps coming. Billy's ammunition counter spins faster than he wants to see. He does not look at it. He cannot. Every time he eases off the trigger, a fighter presses closer, emboldened by the gap. Ball turret, status, Collins demands. Still firing, sir, Billy replies, voice tight. They're committing. A burst of impact slams into the bomber's fuselage. Metal shrieks. Something tears loose somewhere above Billy. The aircraft lurches, then steadies. Hydraulics holding, the co-pilot reports. Minor damage. Another fighter breaks through the defensive fire and rakes the formation. A bomber 2 ships over begins to lag, smoke streaming from its wing. Parachutes bloom moments later, tiny white flowers against the vast sky. Billy feels a flash of anger cut through the fear. He changes his pattern. Instead of sweeping evenly, he concentrates his fire in sudden, violent bursts at specific points where the fighters must pass to line up their shots. He is no longer just reacting. He is shaping the battlefield. One pilot veers away at the last second. Another pulls up too sharply and stalls for a heartbeat, just long enough for the waist gunner to catch him. The fighter rolls inverted and falls away, spinning. The coordinated assault fractures under pressure. Timing collapses. Pilots hesitate, then act alone, breaking the discipline required to survive bomber defenses. After 5 brutal minutes, the sky begins to empty. The fighters disengage one by one, peeling off toward cloud cover or diving away toward friendly airspace. No clean retreat. No victory signal. Just exhaustion and loss. Billy finally releases the triggers. His hands are numb. His arms feel like lead. The turret smells of hot oil and cordite. Enemy braking, the tail gunner confirms, disbelief in his voice. Inside the cockpit, no one speaks. They listen to the engines. They count the bombers still holding formation. Collins keys the intercom at last. Good shooting, all gunners, he says. Then, after a brief pause, especially you, ball turret. Billy swallows hard. His ammunition is low. Dangerously low. But the sky behind them is clear. Ahead, the navigator calls out the next checkpoint. The target is closer now. The worst may still be waiting. The silent sky before the bomb run. By 10:47 hours, the air grows strangely empty. The bomber stream presses on, engines droning in unison, a metallic heartbeat stretched across miles of sky. The flak slackens as they approach the initial point of the bomb run, German gunners conserving ammunition for the moment when the bombers must fly straight and level. The fighters are gone. Not circling. Not probing. Just gone. Billy notices it first. The absence feels wrong. He scans in tight, controlled movements, forcing himself not to fixate on any one patch of sky. The cold has crept deep into his joints now. His breath fogs the inside of the turret despite the oxygen mask. Every few seconds, he flexes his fingers, testing sensation. Ammunition check. He finally looks. Less than a quarter remaining. He reports it without commentary. Ball turret low on ammo, Billy says. Copy, Collins replies. There is no reprimand. Only acknowledgement. The formation tightens as they approach the target. Bomb bay doors are still closed, but the tension is visible in every aircraft. This is the most vulnerable phase of the mission. Straight lines. Predictable altitude. No evasive maneuvering. The moment enemy fighters have been waiting for. Yet the sky remains empty. At 1053 hours, the lead bombardier calls it. Initial point in 30 seconds. Billy braces himself, half expecting the fighters to burst from the clouds at the last possible moment. His mind runs through contingencies automatically. Short bursts only. No warning fire now. Every round must count. Nothing happens. The bomb bay doors open across the formation, panels yawning wide. The change in airflow rattles the bomber. The Iron Duchess steadies, locked into the bomb run. Below them, the target complex comes into view. Rail yards. Storage buildings. Smoke from earlier raids still hanging low. Billy watches the sky, not the ground. He does not allow himself the luxury of looking down. Bombs away, the bombardier announces. The aircraft jumps as its load releases, suddenly lighter. Across the formation, bombers peel slightly as their bombs fall, dark shapes tumbling toward the earth far below. Still no fighters. Minutes stretch. The bombers begin their turn off target, slowly at first, then more aggressively as doctrine allows. Flak bursts chase them, but inaccurately now, the timing off. Only then does the realization settle in. The fighters are not coming back. Collins keys the intercom, his voice low, almost disbelieving. Looks like you scared them off, Billy. No one laughs. No one celebrates. The cost of that silence is visible in the gaps in the formation. In the bomber that never turned away from the target. In the parachutes that bloomed too late. Billy slumps slightly in his harness, exhaustion washing over him now that the immediate threat has passed. His ears ring from hours of gunfire. His eyes burn. He forces himself to keep scanning. Discipline does not end just because relief arrives. As they exit enemy airspace, a single friendly fighter appears in the distance, then another. P-47 Thunderbolts, their bulky shapes unmistakable. The escorts have finally caught up. The contrast is sharp. The fighters fly loose, confident, almost casual compared to the rigid tension of the bomber stream. At 1132 hours, the coastline reappears beneath them. The North Sea stretches out again, gray and familiar. Only then does Collins speak again. Billy, he says. When we get back, intelligence is going to want to talk to you. Billy nods, though no one can see it. Yes, sir, he replies. He does not know yet how the story will be told. How it will be argued in briefing rooms and debriefings. He only knows that when the bombers needed time, he gave it to them. The sky behind them remains empty and silent. After landing, the argument begins. At 1410 hours, the Iron Duchess touches down on the steel mat runway back in England. The landing is rough but controlled, tires screeching briefly before the bomber settles and rolls out. Engines throttle down one by one, the sudden quiet almost disorienting after hours of constant noise. Crew chiefs rush forward as the aircraft taxis in, scanning for damage, counting holes, reading the story written in torn aluminum and blackened scars. Billy waits as the turret is cranked back into position and opened. Cold air spills in, replaced by the damp, earthy smell of grass and oil. He climbs out stiffly, legs shaking as blood rushes back into them. His flight suit is streaked with grease and sweat, his face pale beneath grime. On the hardstand, the crew gathers instinctively, drawn together by habit and relief. No one speaks much. They are too tired. Too aware of who did not come back. Intelligence officers are already moving down the line of bombers, clipboards in hand. They stop at the Iron Duchess. Lieutenant Collins is first to be pulled aside. Billy knows what is coming. Inside the debriefing hut, the air is warm and stale, smelling of coffee and cigarette smoke. Maps line the walls, marked with grease pencil. Billy sits on a wooden bench, helmet on his knees, while an intelligence captain flips through notes. Staff Sergeant Hargreaves, the captain begins. Your ammunition expenditure today was significantly higher than standard for a ball turret gunner. Billy nods once. Yes, sir. Can you explain why you opened fire outside effective range on multiple occasions? Billy thinks of the sky. Of the moment the fighters hesitated. Of the way formations unraveled when certainty vanished. I wanted them to know we saw them, he says carefully. I wanted them to change their plan. The captain frowns slightly. That is not in the engagement doctrine. No, sir, Billy agrees. But it worked. The room goes quiet. Another officer, a major with tired eyes, leans forward. Lieutenant Collins reports that enemy fighter coordination broke down early and never fully recovered, the major says. Is that consistent with your observation? Yes, sir. The captain closes his folder. You understand, he says, that if every gunner fired early, we would risk running out of ammunition during the actual attack. Billy meets his gaze. Yes, sir. I also understand that if they hit us together, ammunition wouldn't matter. No one responds immediately. Outside, another bomber crew walks past the hut, one man limping, another with his arm in a sling. The war does not pause for theory. Finally, the major nods. This will be noted, he says. No disciplinary action. Billy exhales slowly, tension draining from his shoulders. As the crew disperses, Collins catches up with him near the aircraft. You made me nervous up there, Collins admits. But I won't forget what I saw. Billy shrugs, suddenly unsure what to say. I just didn't want them to get comfortable, sir. Collins nods once, then offers his hand. Good instinct. The Iron Duchess will fly again. So will Billy. The doctrine will remain unchanged, written in neat lines on paper far from the sky. But among the crews, a quiet lesson spreads. Some gunners begin firing a little earlier. Some commanders stop them. Some do not. High above Europe, future formations will meet the enemy with a new variable. Uncertainty. Billy walks away from the aircraft as the sun dips low, casting long shadows across the airfield. His ears still ring. His hands still smell of oil and gunpowder. He knows that somewhere, enemy pilots will remember the mission where the sky spoke too soon. The lesson that outlived the mission. That night, the airfield settles into uneasy calm. Generators hum. Mechanics work under hooded lights, patching holes and replacing panels, erasing the evidence of violence so the bombers can fly again. In the mess hall, Crews eat in near silence, faces hollow, minds still at altitude. The war presses forward without pause. Billy sits alone at a corner table, cup of coffee untouched. His hands no longer shake, but the memory of the turret still clings to him. The narrow glass. The cold. The moment when the sky stopped behaving the way the manual said it should. Across the room, he hears fragments of conversation. They never came back in. Never seen fighters break that early. Someone must have spooked them. Billy does not speak up. He is not looking for credit. He is still turning it over in his head, replaying the first burst of tracers arcing into empty air, the instant hesitation that followed. A decision made in a heartbeat that changed the rhythm of the fight. 2 days later, the intelligence section circulates a quiet addendum. Not an order. Not doctrine. Just an observation. Early detection and disruption may reduce enemy coordination during massed fighter attacks. Commanders are advised to consider situational judgment. The language is careful. Bureaucratic. But among aircrews, the meaning is clear. Billy flies 4 more missions that month. On the next one, another ball turret gunner in a different squadron fires early. His pilot almost orders him to stop. Almost. The fighters hesitate. The formation holds. The gunner lives. Not every time works that way. War is not a formula. Some gunners fire early and pay for it later when ammunition runs dry. Some enemy pilots adapt, pressing through the warning fire with grim resolve. The sky learns. So do the men who fight in it. But something has shifted. Enemy after-action reports begin to note increased bomber alertness. Attacks are delayed. Approaches grow more cautious. Fuel runs lower. Opportunities slip away. Months later, Billy is rotated stateside. His war ends not with a blaze of glory, but with paperwork and a train ride inland. He leaves behind the Iron Duchess, patched and repainted, carrying new crews into the same thin air. Years after the war, historians will argue over statistics. Over ammunition expenditure rates. Over whether early firing truly changed outcomes or merely coincided with other factors. They will debate doctrine in quiet rooms far from flak and frost. Billy never joins those arguments. He remembers the sky going silent. He remembers the feeling in his gut that said do not wait. He remembers watching enemy fighters break apart before they could strike, not because they were destroyed, but because their certainty was. On April 14, 1943, at 26,000 feet over hostile territory, a gunner was accused of wasting ammunition. Instead, he spent it on time. And in the air war over Europe, time was sometimes the only thing that kept men alive.